What's up, good people? Welcome into Montgomery Co. Okay, so I went back. I'm going back to UConn. We went back to UConn this weekend for Women's Weekend, which was the first time I've known about it happening in a sense of the whole weekend was to celebrate the women's excellence that happens at UConn, whether it was, we know about women's basketball and the championships that Coach Ariema and the whole coaching staff have won, but we also were celebrating field hockey, swimming, the first OGs that started the program, Title IX's 50th anniversary. There were a lot of women there that were they just directly resulted in Title IX. They had programs now that they could attend. They had sports worlds, like sports lives that they could just advance and go further with. So it was really a wild moment just to see like all the women that basically started the sports era in college. And then there was first night. And so the whole fam was with me, Snook, Diddy, Serena, my son, Junior. And he was asking me a whole bunch of questions at first, like, oh, are people going to show up? What is first practice? I'm like, it's the first practice of the year. It basically is just a celebration of the men's and women's basketball team that the season is here, baby. Okay. Like, that's all it is. He's like, oh, or are people going to show up? And I'm like, are people going to show up? I had to even just take a second here. What are you talking about, son? So we get to opening night. Now, it's changed a little bit. Coach Ariema let me know I wasn't here for 15 years. I graduated in 2009. So I was like, dang, like I've been gone for a minute. The campus is different. There's a downtown area now. We have a Starbucks on campus. What? Like what? So everything's different, including first night. I get there. There's a whole stage. I'm hosting, by the way. So I pull up and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, you want to, host a little bit. We know you do this on a regular. So what's up? So I'm like, okay. So get a script, whole big old stage. UConn sold out the thing. Students only invited. So it was a closed event, only open to the students, and the students sold the whole gym out, which I think is a pretty dope thing. But then we get to the band. And I posted it online. If you guys haven't seen it, I posted it on Instagram. The band comes out here and shuts it down. They drumline style. Now, I'm not saying it's HBCU style because I do know that drum lines and HBCUs and the marching bands are synonymous with excellence. But UConn really did come out there and show some energy for the drum line. They had fire. They lit up the sticks and they started tapping on each other's drumline style. I know y'all remember Nick Cannon and all of them drumlines that they were doing some of that stuff, beating on each other's drums. I was impressed. I'm just going to say I was impressed with UConn and everything going on. There were a lot of alum there. I'm not even going to name the amount of alum there because I don't want to forget nobody, but what up to the alum that was there? It was just a crazy weekend at UConn. I mean, I know that people talk about UConn basketball and the excellence that is, but when you get to go back to situations like first night, you see the UConn family. You see the UConn, like, just whole community that makes you who you are post UConn. And, I talked about that in my speech, that 2%. That's, only 2% of athletes go pro, and UConn gave me that 2%. So it was just a crazy turn of events that weekend. And it was just, I felt the love. I felt the family. I felt like exactly how I felt when I was there. And that's hard to say. So shouts to UConn, my Huskies, man. I bleed blue. Okay, so we're back at it again. Danielle, back at it again with Newsroom. What y'all got for me this week? This week I know was a very spicy week, so I'm actually a little concerned about what y'all might have for me this week. Ooh.
I'll start us off. So, looking for my Newsroom articles here, I was just flipping through and somebody's name keeps coming up, and he's no longer known as Kanye, but Ye kept coming up in all my headlines. And I was like, you know what, that's a good point. Let me just say he's touching everything, he's messy and everything, so I'm just going to do literally just the headlines because the headlines speak for themselves. Now, one of the headlines I really don't have, but I know that everybody knows that actually Instagram and Facebook have just kind of gave him the time out as far as his statements he made against the Jewish community, and they weren't very happy about it, and neither was he. So he's mad. So then I see on CNN, CNN says basically that a week after being called out for his anti-Semitism, Kanye West buys Parler.
Oh, yes.
Why?
I heard about that.
Because Yeah, so that was the first messy thing that I see, other than the tweets that he did before that upset the Jewish community. Then he just said, well, fine, since y'all gonna keep on putting me on suspension, because now they're talking about a permanent ban for Instagram. He said, I'll just go ahead and buy my own platform. So good luck to all those who are going to be on Ye's platform.
I don't know. Is he trying to follow in Donald Trump's steps or something?
My point exactly.
And I hate
there
that
you
I
go.
just said his name. Why did I say
yes.
that?
Why did
you know,
do
he
that?
had something to say about anti-Semitism. I heard on the news this morning, the journalists were outraged about our 45th comments about the Jewish community.
Yeah, so that's how he go, and he's like, he's going to do that. But then it doesn't stop there, because not only does he spill over messy into Instagram and into Facebook and now into Twitter, because Twitter welcomed him back, of course, because that's what that is. And then he goes over and touches another topic, and it says George Floyd's family considering lawsuit after Kanye West claims of fentanyl
Yeah, no, that
claim.
was a hot mess.
So-
that's
like
a hot mess.
defamation
I mean,
of
it's all a hot
character and
mess.
everything.
It's
just
all
like,
a hot mess,
yeah.
but he's everywhere. It's
I
like,
don't know who he's trying to
what?
appease to. I don't understand.
Yes. So I didn't have one topic. I just did the messy boots. He's messy boots right now. He is just messy. He just
listen.
he's
I
too
feel
much.
like Ye is having an episode. Like I feel like when people that struggle from mental, illnesses, and he said, people try to say he suffers from mental illness, and that's a way to hold him back. I think times like this are times where people think that you are suffering from mental illness, because why else would you do the things you're doing? To Serena's point, who are you appealing to? And why? So yeah,
we're not done yet. I got one more. One more.
Wow.
This is not a CNN newsroom type title, but then he's also touching on the base of, now he's putting his children in a different predicament, because he wants them to go to Donda's school. So he actually put out the name of the school that his children are going to. So now Kim has got to had to beef up security and all this stuff to make sure her children are in a safe environment, as well as the other children who are in the school. It's not fair to them either. So to make sure that, that nothing crazy is going on as well. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, he's just messy. He's messy everywhere.
This is everywhere
he goes.
Snook, this is a manic episode.
I mean, a lot of people have been saying it for a long time. Like, Kanye has been lost it, and a lot of people are like, okay, well, this is the last straw. I myself have even mistaken his stupidity for maybe borderline genius, but there's a line that you cross where it's like, okay, you have just gone mad at this point. I know that everybody tends to think about outside of the box when you're a genius, quote unquote genius or whatever, but nah, this is he's gone too far one too many times, or like way too many times, I should say.
Yes, and moving along to the next one. Okay, Cole, she threw her stuff out there. We're going to keep it moving. We're going to keep up the pace a little bit faster now. What we got coming to the newsroom?
Mine's not long this time, so I'll just go ahead and jump in there. And the reason I chose this article is because I have been traveling a lot. And when I used to travel in the past, I would notice when I flew that there was always a few vacant seats on the plane. Never was every plane that I got on. This has been going on since the COVID ended. Every seat is taken.
COVID's over?
Well, since COVID, we had to shut down and no planes were flying.
That's what the government says. The government said.
So Travel and Leisure has an article out today about the U.S. airports are among the busiest in the world. And you won't believe this, but the one that we fly through, and I'm glad that they're my hub from West Virginia now, because my flight to Atlanta is only 50 minutes. So that's wonderful. No, two flights to get there or whatever. But the Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport remains the busiest airport in the world in October, as the country and the world gears up for the crowded holiday season. Now, number two, as far as airports was, I haven't been to this airport, but I'm dying to go.
It's got to be Paris.
Dubai.
Dubai is the second busiest?
Second busiest in October. Now they're just doing this for recently, and then followed by Tokyo, and then Dallas, Fort Worth. So I guess, like I said, if you're flying, you need to know that it's going to be hot and heavy for the holiday season, and Atlanta is still the busiest airport in the world.
Come on.
Wow.
Shouts to Tan.
That's crazy.
Shouts. We got folks that is heading up the leadership teams over there at the airport. Now, honestly, though, the Atlanta airport really is like, it is what they say they is, in a sense of I travel in and out of the airport so much. And anytime I go to other airports, it definitely isn't the same processes as ours. And we're spoiled in Atlanta. What else we got?
Crazy. It's crazy that it's the busiest, but it's so efficient. Like, I mean, you do get, backed up sometimes, but it's not like, like New York is not like, like LaGuardia, JFK, all those other ones. Nah, you're going to run into hours of TSA. But anyway, moving on to weird news. Billions of snow crabs have disappeared from the waters around Alaska.
I saw that.
Why are we all concerned? We're all like, what's going on with our crabs?
I don't know what
don't
is
mess
going
with the crab
on
now, baby.
Right. Like, well, usually research usually attributes that to overfishing, but now research has actually said that this is completely, well, I should not say completely. It says that the disappearance is human-caused climate change is a significant factor in the crab's alarming disappearance. That's what the research says. So we need to do better with our planet. It doesn't look like we're going to be eating a lot of crabs anytime soon, but this is, I don't know, I felt like this was kind of weird. We're around Halloween time. This is kind of like weird news. I felt like this was kind of fitting around, this was kind of weirding me out. It's kind of like when the birds fell out of the sky. You guys remember that news?
Yes.
Definitely.
This is like, I don't like when the animals disappear like that. That's
1 billion too. It's like, it's not that just like 100 million. That would have been alarming to me. Like 100 million
like
crabs.
That's alarming.
That's alarming. But we're talking about
is.
1 billion with a B.
Right.
I just went and bought seafood today. I bought me some crab. I bought some scallops and some shrimp. So and it was expensive.
It's gonna only get worse. Look,
worse.
Them unlimited crab nights. Y'all know them places that used to have unlimited crab leg nights. Y'all better. Them things are about to be a thing of the past if these crabs keep on disappearing. That was an interesting one. All right, and I will bring up the rear with my newsroom. Okay, so for me, it's a time for a celebration, okay? I got to call up my dear good friend because we rich, baby. Shouts to Charles Barkley and the whole Inside the NBA on TNT crew. They all just signed some unbelievable, groundbreaking deals that I absolutely think they deserve. I want to make sure I say that. The deals are coming in. I mean, they said Charles Barkley deal, and then like we haven't gotten all the details yet. But Charles Barkley deal is rumored somewhere between $100 to $200 million. And that's reported from the New York Post. It's a 10-year deal. His current deal is through the 2024-2025 season, which is the same season when the TNT's NBA contract expires. Okay, so I'm just saying, like, it's a wild turn of events. I don't know what else to say other than we're blessed because we're going to get, I'm talking about prime time. I don't care. Charles Barkley, unfiltered. Because you got to remember what happens when your relatives that are outspoken get a little bit older. They're just get a little bit more outspoken. They get a little bit more unfiltered. And I just feel like they had to know when they signed Charles Barkley to an extension that the discussion of, am I going to be able to speak how I want to speak came up, because I remember that was a topic of discussion before. He was like, look, I can only be me, so I might need to retire soon. That was what we heard last. So now we're hearing a 10-year deal worth 100 to 200 million. I'm assuming that we're going to get some unfiltered, amazing Inside the NBA on TNT. So we all deserve this. We all need to celebrate what's going on.
I'm happy that he's back. I'm so happy because like you said, we didn't think that he was going to be back. He was talking about retiring. And so now we're going to have him for a long time. I'm really happy about this. Yes.
Now I hope the powers that be look and see what female analysts could we get to sit up there that they could,
oh my goodness,
bless them.
I like the idea. And guess what? I'm with Snook.
I'm going to speak it. I'm going to speak it. They do. They need an outspoken person who can say what they got to say.
My goodness.
In our gender as well.
Oh, well, and I'm also going to say this. Fasten your seatbelts because it's going to be a bumpy ride.
It's gonna be so fun.
It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be
fun,
so
fun.
fun. And it's not just Charles Barkley signing back, by the way. The whole group came back pretty much. So Ernie Johnson, he's entering his 33rd season, 33 years with the company as host of telecast. So that's he's coming back. Charles Barkley, 4-time Sports Emmy Award winner for Outstanding Sports Personality. We know that personality. He earned that. Kenny Smith coming back, a 2-time NBA champion with the Houston Rockets, 24th year as a studio analyst. He's going to be back. And then, of course, Shaquille O'Neal joined the company in 2011, appearing as a studio analyst on the Inside the NBA. All of that. Okay, so all of that.
Shaq now.
Listen, we all get the treat of the NBA on TNT coming back, at least until the end of their TV contract with the NBA. So I just think that's a celebration and a great way to wrap up the MoCo Newsroom. Morgan Cato, come on. Wait, I'm not done congratulating you on becoming the first woman of color to be hired by an NBA team as an assistant GM with the Phoenix Suns. Okay. Welcome to the show.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm honored. I'm humble. I'm grateful. I'm excited. And I'm glad to be an amazing company. Energy matches energy. So I'm looking forward to this chat today. I'm really, really honored.
Right.
Let's go. I love it. So there was this new movie that recently came out called Hustler by Adam Sandler. And it talked a lot about, it was a fictional show, just so you guys know, but I think a lot of people in the sports world can relate to the fact that it's a struggle to climb a ladder in any organization. And so once you get your foot in there, that's a tough thing to do. You've climbed the ladder all the way to assistant GM. So I would love to hear about your journey and just, what did that look like along the way?
Oh, gosh. Well, number one, hustle, you're right. It is spot on. It authentically captured what it really feels like to be in this business, right? But before I even go into that, Renee, shout out to you. Because, girl, you are breaking down those doors just as well. I mean, to have you in the space that you're in, we are shifting the narrative on what women do, what athletes do, and I'm championing you 100%. So anything I can do to continue supporting you, you know that you have me. So got you on that. But no, hustle is real. Hustle's real, literally, across the board. And I think people also get used to thinking that this life is really about the glitz and the glam. And that's a small percentage and a fragment of, what you receive in this space. You got to do this work because it's about passion. It's about love. It's about being authentic. And it's really, having that basketball Jones, as I call it, you have to want to be in this space. So ultimately, I think that's where a lot of my success has come from. I'm authentically me all the time. I learned to be comfortable in my own skin many, many years ago. And when I recognized that there are very few people that look like us in this industry, I decided that I can't be anyone other than me. I can't try to be a former professional player. I can't try to be a man. I can't try to be anyone that moves differently from how Morgan, as an African-American woman, traditionally moves. So I own that. And I love what we do. I recognize that Hoops has the chance to change lives differently, create access for many communities that don't traditionally have opportunities like this. And more than anything, it's not just about me. It's about the game. I'm in service to this game. So I think those are some of the nuggets that have helped me to get to where I am today. But it's a journey. It's a journey. You got to love this work, So that's prayer, being steadfast. My steps are ordered by the highest. So I just move that way. That's it.
No, I love that. Yes. And a lot of people, are just now, you talked about it, you and I being different roles in this space. A lot of people are getting used to women being in the front office of men's sports. That's something that, and we're going to get to the basketball aspect of it too, because I want to make sure I talk hoops and business with you, because listen, this is get you somebody that can do both. Okay, we got her. Morgan, what up? So I wanted to talk to you about, because a lot of people aren't necessarily used to women being in positions of power in men's sports. Now, you just so happen to be involved with the the team that I think is like exceptional in that space. WNBA fans have seen the Phoenix team pull up on the Mercury, sitting courtside at their playoff games, all of the above. So what is that energy like, you know, from the players welcoming you in? Because it's never usually the players that have the problems. It's usually the outside noise, the media, the fans that aren't real fans. But what has that been like?
You know, part of why I am here, I really have to give so much respect and a shout out to James and Monty. They are both amazing leaders, both amazing basketball leaders, and just good human beings, right? So I've had relationships with them professionally and personally throughout my time at the league office. You know, as Monty has continued to ascend as a world-class leader and coach, James shifted the narrative as well from being a championship player to being an executive in this space. A lot of what I used to do on the league office side is kind of how do we close the gaps between, you know, the compliance and the business side of basketball, and truly trying to create more space for the game to show up authentically. So I played a lot of that middle ground, you know, and then also growing up, you know, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. So I spent my time basically on every playground you can think about in the city. So, I mean, these are my guys, you know what I mean?
You already know.
Yes, right.
You know, so there's a degree of relatability, I think, in just kind of understanding the space and understanding today's players. So as they recognized that there was more that they wanted to do here in Phoenix, they had a short list of people that they were interested in to help complement what's not here. And I was one of those people on that list. So it was a bit more of an organic fit. It wasn't more so of just, okay, here's the job, go apply and go post. You know, I have been interviewing and doing the job and doing the work for years. You know, it's through access, it's through relationships, it's through trust that, and then timing, you know, to recognize that, okay, there's something that you have that we need here. Let's talk about it. And that's why Phoenix is where I am. I'm sure there are plenty of other organizations that I could consider or think about. But when I thought authentically about what made sense for Mo, this was the best fit. So that's essentially how I got here. And the guys, they've been amazing. I mean, I have hit the ground running with an amazing front office, staff, team personnel, coaches, the first person opening the facility to the last person here in the evening. I mean, when you talk about like real group hugs and love, like it has been amazing. And I have never experienced that anywhere that I've been, where people are just genuinely showing up as themselves and have welcomed me and have recognized my value from the ground running. So it's really been an awesome experience.
Praise God.
Wow, that's
Beautiful.
amazing. And you
Praise
said that
God.
you've been doing the job for years. So walk us through it. Like, what is the day in the life? Okay. Because, you know, like people may hear assistant GM and they're like, okay, so what does that look like on a game day? You know, the season is here. So what does a day look like for Mo on a game day with the Phoenix Suns?
Yes.
Well, let's even back up a little bit, because I basically started, you know, just before training camp. So much of my work has been essentially in kind of like how we're building, how we're preparing, you know, because we're a team that's here to compete, you know. So when we talk about all of the pieces, how we can tighten up on process, how we can tighten up on player enhancement when it comes to performance and performance plans, how we focus on coaching development. It's kind of like all these pieces that start to ready us for the season is really where I've spent the most of my time so far. So I have been basically on the court, here early, during shoot-arounds, building the relationship. So number one, the trust is there and it's there the right way. And then I have 2 ears and 1 mouth. I can't walk into someone else's house and just automatically say, give me the keys, you know, or this is what you're going to do, or this is what you're not going to do. The transactional side of the business is a huge component, but ultimately we're about performance. You know, so that's where I spend the most of my time from an assistant general manager and VP of B-Ball Ops perspective. I'm focused on performance. I'm focused on how do we continue to win and all the pieces that come through that. I also say I focus on roster cohesion, not necessarily just roster construction. So when you separate and think about the differences with that, is it's not just about the contractual pieces to say who fits in our salary bracket, you know, where do we want to emphasize luxury tax, or where do we want to make the recommendations? We got to make the pieces work.
Wow.
Right. So
that's cool to hear.
Right. And Renee, you know this, right? You know what it's like to be on a team where, like, you just don't have that cohesion, you know, or players can't communicate effectively, or coaches have ideas and want to figure out how do I actually get a play from this point to action to shift. and really be kind of like a team leader and an individual player. So we're focused on playing wide and playing deep. How do we enhance all the abilities of our guys, but then how do we also prepare for the long run? We're focused on what our playoff stretch is going to look like and how we're able to compete in the postseason. So how you play deep and play wide is a lot of kind of where I'm spending my time and getting some of those nuggets out. So when we fast forward now to what the season looks like, we have our season opener this Wednesday. We are excited. We are amped. It's going to be a nationally televised game. So by the time I think anyone's hearing this, we would have gotten that dub. I'm claiming it.
Okay, you better speak it into existence.
Yes.
Right. By the time we do that, I'll even go back. Thank you, Mama. I appreciate that. Thank you. But let's even go back to Vegas and our preseason games. Part of my work there is being there early for the guys, understand the landscape. It's important to be there for basically warm up and make sure everybody's in their right space. Talk to scouts, we talk to other personnel who are here, but make sure that they are ready to perform. And then it's anything and everything that can kind of happen throughout the season. So making sure that our guys continue to stay healthy. If we're having any issues in the arena, just true connectivity to the performance staff, coaches, things like that. We're the first people that they see when they leave the VOM, when they're leaving the locker room, making sure everyone's in the right mindset. And no matter whether we win or we lose, we're still there at the end. So it's that consistency. And my role throughout the season, I will be traveling with the team for the majority of the season to make sure that we're supporting and they have that consistent pulse of, just how we continue to be good in different markets. Renee, you know this too, that road life is no joke. Right.
Ooh,
so when
it's long.
When you're not in a desirable city, how are you still making sure that you're able to perform when you're away from your family? When you're at that sticky point in the season where you're like, I don't want to see anyone's face. All I want to do is get back home. All of that is real. And those are the other pieces that go into really helping to manage a team to perform. So transactions, salary cap, CBA, performance enhancement, player engagement, our logistics, all of the different pieces, how we connect to our business. I kind of play across all of those different areas. And the last piece I'll hit on also from the business perspective, that's a true nugget that I think the game is still working towards. Like in many cases, you'll have a divide between the business side of the house and the basketball part.
Yeah,
so
we're working on that right now to make sure that it's just fluid.
You know this. Exactly. So how do we create, more synergy? So as we're looking at our partnerships, our sponsorships, and what makes sense for the guys, like strategically, doing things that make sense for Suns basketball. And I'm blessed to be able to join the organization when we're in such a pivotal space where we're coming, out of a low. But the pun on the words in the valleys, you have highs and lows, right? So we're coming back into this high space. Yes. So I'm excited to be there for it. So it's been great.
Love
so,
that.
you touched on the low. And so I'm just curious, you feel like a very hands-on, you talked about chemistry, connectivity. When situations like what happened, how do you make sure that the guys are in the right headspace as you talked about? How do you make sure that the group, everyone does have that same energy? Because, that was a big blow to the organization, but the season is still coming around the corner. So I feel like a lot of that does fall on you now hearing your role. So, what have you been doing to make sure that everybody's in that headspace?
It's a fair point. I think what everyone has experienced previously, everyone had different points of engagement. Some of the guys that are here, they did not personally experience that, but they, are empathetic to relate to their colleagues who, experienced the hardship of that era. I think what we're charged with is showing who the Suns really are, and it's separate from one individual. These guys are out here grinding. These guys are out here hustling. And Monty Williams, we were talking just last week, and this place really is magical. There is something different. There's a different energy here. So I think what we're all charged with is just showing up and doing Suns hoops, doing Suns basketball and showing the camaraderie and just showing like what we're really about. We're bigger than, the highlights. We're bigger than, the tabloids and essentially, kind of what you're seeing in the media headlines. There's a larger story to tell here. So that's what we're doing. We're just helping the guys to authentically show up and be them. And help them get wins as much as they can. But it's bigger than just those experiences. It's so much more. And the more we can create energy and positive energy around that, I think we're in a good space. And just on that note, I'll kind of hit on that's coming out of Media Day, right? And Media Day is interesting for me. I work with great colleagues who have just done so much to make sure that our guys were set up, to be comfortable, to have their narratives, and that the Suns also had the right messaging to show relatability to so much that's gone on in the past, over the past 18 years. But you also want to focus on the high points. Right. We're gearing up. We're ready for a good season. So it's also, I think, a little bit more challenging when you come out of a setting or a media day where the theme is gloom and doom, when those are the questions that were asked versus asking things in a positive light. If the world wants to fixate, on negative energy, that's unfortunate. There's so much more, though, that the guys and that the team have to offer. So I think anytime, we get to authentically show up and show where we're going and where we are versus where we've been, I think that's a win for everyone.
Yes, it is.
I love that. I love that. Go ahead, Swing.
I can see what a difficult job you have because, you're talking about it, but we all know that athletes are very complicated individuals who have their egos. And sometimes, the communication goes in one ear and comes out the other.
I feel like I'm being
shots fired
right now.
Shots fired.
But I'm just saying, it takes a special person to bring all of those egos, all of those things that the coach wants, the things that the organization wants to the game and make it successful. So you really have your work cut out for you.
Yeah, and I'm gonna call you Ma, right? So
no problem. Right? No problem.
It's also, they're athletes, but they're also people. And I think everything that you just said would go for anyone who's in a high performance setting. So previous to me working in basketball, I was at the legal office for 10 years. But before that, I worked in investment banking. I worked in consulting. I worked in nonprofit. So when it comes to the spectrum of just understanding people, and I've also spent quite a bit of time internationally, on courts across the world. So like I've kind of got the people thing down, right? Irrespective of if you're an athlete or not. And then also I'm a middle child and I come from a ginormous family of, great loving people.
You don't have middle child syndrome, do you?
Girl, I got middle child syndrome all day.
Me too though.
all day.
No.
But when you meet people where they are, I think that's really what it's about, creating more relatability, for someone who spends the majority of their time and highly visible and overly exposed. Sometimes you just got to meet people where they are, and I don't treat anyone in this building like they're better or they're worse. Like we're all human beings, no matter of your title, no matter of your salary range, like you just have to meet people where they are. And that's, again, where it comes to listening and understanding and just kind of going from there. And, even back to that point of kind of knowing your audience. In the mornings, I'll come and I'll sit down during shoot around to just kind of like meet the guys where they are. And coach comes up to me after, a few guys finished working out. He came to kind of give me a hug and, just kind of show some love. And he said, "I'm sorry, I'm sweaty." I said, "Coach," I said, "we're in the gym."
Right.
like we're supposed to be sweaty. You know what I mean? Yep. The guys, like, I know where I am. I'm coming to your house. This is my house now. I don't have to wear heels anymore. You know what I mean? I'm good. So, it's meeting people where they are for all the highs and the lows, and just it's trying to lead with the positivity. You just got to be a good human being.
That's true.
I love that. And I feel like we're getting full on access right now. Is practice going on behind you? I feel like I'm, in my zone. And so, you talked about Monty Williams, and I really want to get in a little bit more onto him because there's no human that I've met that doesn't even just smile when they say his name and think about how he has been with them. A coach of the year type caliber player every single season. But what he's done with that Phoenix group, a lot of people thought Phoenix had a lot of potential for so many years. Like you could just see it. It was there. But what he does and brings out of the players that he's coaching, can you just talk about that? Because you said magical was a word that was happening there. And I think that he's a big part of that.
Yeah. He's a big part of that because he recognizes that it's not just him. You know, like he recognizes the importance of the coaching staff and the contributions from everyone. He recognizes the importance of our performance staff. Like, you know, he's not the kind of person to hover, you know, but so much. He's conscious of his spacing and where he is and learning how to let people continue doing what you're doing. But I'm here from a different capacity. So when you recognize that it's not just about you, this is a team game, you know, and I think that's what shines the most for him, is that degree of relatability, but also allowing people to kind of do what they need to do. Now, that's a space that we're continuing to ramp up on. You know, how do we empower and enable our coaches, our players, our performance staff to make those recommendations to get us from one point to the next? You know, it's not just always this top-down approach. It's also, how do we recognize how much talent and, you know, everything else that we have going on in this building to make sure that, you know, the guys continue to perform. That's when the magic is. You know, it's just, people can come and be as they are. And that's what I experienced. You know, when I came and visited with the team just before coming on board officially, and this was early. You know, I think we were just finishing finals or in the home stretch of finals. And I had just came like right after they finished kind of doing a shoot around. You know, most guys are not even in market during that time frame. You know, the season ends and they're like, I'm out. I don't want to see you. I need to show up mandatories, right? But I feel like I walked into a backyard barbecue in the performance center, like in the performance room in the weight and training area. And I'm like, this is it. You know, this music playing, it's good energy. You know, people are drinking their, you know, post-workout shakes and talking about real stuff. James is there. I mean, like, let's take that interview. You have your general manager.
Right.
You have your head coach, you have your assistant coaches, you have your players. Like it's a whole family. Everyone's kind of locked in. It's not that division of, you know, church and state. Yeah. Like we're all in it, you know, and there are very few places where I've seen that. Just even with James as the type of leader that he is, he's not a traditional leader. In most cases, I think anyone that's attained for that general manager role has spent a lot of time focused on the transactional piece. You know, it's more than just the transactions. And I think in the same way that we're kind of coming through this era of analytics and data, and Renee, you know this, like it's a copycat league. It's a copycat game, right? You know, over the past, I say 10 to probably 12, 13 years, everyone's like really focused on the data, the analytics, you know, but data is not absolute. It's a tool. You know, it's a resource to help you figure out how to kind of get other pieces to function the way they should. I think we're now moving into the space of a bit more EQ management. Like you have to know where people are. We're also dealing with, and I pause on the word sophistication because I don't want to insinuate that players weren't sophisticated previously, but given the degree of access that we have, visibility, social media, et cetera, we're able to visibly see the brand and sophistication of players now. So you got to meet these guys where they are. Right. You know, we can't make assumptions. You know, we're now in the space of NIL. People understand their brand. They understand their worth. They know what they want to do post-career. They want to focus on their bodies differently. They want to be in this game longer and make something more of basketball, right? So it's understanding all those pieces and how do you make it work on the court. That's what James is about, you know?
Wow. So listen, I'll tell you right now, the players listening, I mean, how could you not want to root for your organization now? Look at the leadership that you guys have. Look at what you're trying to do to overcome a situation. I thank you so much, Morgan, for stopping by Montgomery Co. to talk to us. We wish you nothing but the best in your new role, which you've been doing it for years. So continue to do what you do, okay? And thank you for joining us on Montgomery Co.
No, my pleasure. Enjoy, ladies. I'm glad to be with you. And Renee, I'll see you sooner than later on the road.
So it used to be back in the day, prior to social media becoming such a huge part of our lives, that when we heard information from the news or the newspaper or the radio, we would actually, if we had an opinion, we would talk to our friends, we would talk to our neighbors, we would talk to our family members, we would talk to people in our local town. You know, that's usually as far as it went, as far as what we talked. Let me start over. So it used to be, back before social media came along, is that if we heard a piece of information from the news, the radio, the TV, if we had an opinion, however emotionally charged we were, we would talk to our friends, we would talk to our family, talk to the neighbors, talk to the people in our local town. And that's usually as far as it went. Now in 2022, now anybody who has a thought or a conspiracy or a feeling can go to their preferred social media platform, and they can have an audience to hear how they feel, and also to get a high five, an amen, or I disagree from whoever is listening. And so I remember growing up, people were saying children are off limits. You know, it didn't matter where you went in the world, no matter your ethnicity, your religion, your social economic background. You know, people would say you can attack the adults, you can come after me, but leave the kids out of it. And it used to be just basic human decency. So now that everyone can go out there and just say what they feel, I feel like that level of human decency has gone out the door. And the reason why I say that is because I looked at an article, and the title is, for the article, Alex Jones ordered to pay Sandy Hook victim families nearly $1 billion. And so let me give you a little background as to why Mr. Jones has to pay the families this amount of money. And the reason why is because it's been a while, and it's been a while, but it's still happening. Back in 2012 in Newtown, Connecticut, 20 children and one FBI agent who responded to the call lost their lives that day in a senseless school shooting. And so soon after the news broke through, the news broke of this event, Mr. Jones actually took a stance to say that he did not believe that this event even happened, and that this massacre was not real, and this was something that the government put together, and they hired actors, both adults and children, to push gun legislation to be tighter, or to, basically take away our guns. That's the thought processes that a lot of people have. And so he not only spoke on it, but he made it his business. And when I say he made it his business, literally he made it his business that he would go and he tried to prove, or he was trying to have evidence that this never occurred. And so his theory, his conspiracy theory, to all those who were, very avid listeners of Mr. Jones, they believed him. And that's why I say a lot of times that social media, the responsibility and human decency is out the door, because not only did these people believe him, but they actually started to harass the families. They, online harassment, they were verbal, they would actually had death threats. And so not only did they lose their children and they're trying to put their lives back together, but then they have a bunch of crazies who are out there who are telling them basically that their children did not exist, which is, to me, unimaginable, the hurt that has to cause. And so they decided enough was enough. And so they decided to sue Mr. Jones, in which it went to trial. And Mr. Jones actually lost, and he's been charged with basically having to pay these families up to $960 million. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but nearly $1 billion. And I just want to say, make it make sense as to speaking on children's lives. Like, when did that become a thing? Even if you didn't believe that these things happen, make it make sense as to why that would be the business model or the stance that you would want to build your entire business off of. Because literally, I'm not really familiar with Mr. Jones or anything, but this is the only thing I know about him. So this is what you've branded your company with. And so I did see also that he's trying to say that his business is going bankrupt and, whatever he's doing to try to protect himself legally from having to pay this money, which is what I believe is what he's doing. But make it make sense why this was even something that you wanted to engage in to begin with. Like, speaking on children's lives. That's just a horrible thing to say. You could have blamed the government. You could have said it was a government conspiracy. But going to the point of even speaking on those children's names, it went way too far. It went way, way, way too far. So make it make sense to me as to how we lost the human decency of keeping the children out of it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he is an anomaly, and I pray that he is. But just make it make sense how you took a business model and you took a stance and you made money off of this type of hurt, off of this type of unfortunate event, off of this type of just, it's a terrible, unspeakable act that happened against all these families. So just make it make sense. Like, did you sit down and talk to anybody? Where's your family? Where are your friends? Where is your small community to say this isn't right? Not saying that you shouldn't do what you want to do or censorship, but where's the people around you saying this just isn't right? Just do something else. Go a different way. Pivot. But make it make sense how you continued and thought and continues to go on, because he really is doubling down on the fact that this is what he believes, and that's fine. Believe what you want to believe. But make it make sense how you made this your business. I don't understand.